What if the reason money has never stayed with you is not because the world is unfair, not because the system is rigged, not because luck forgot your address, but because somewhere deep inside your mind you never truly decided who you were going to become? Sit with that question. Let it breathe. Because every financial outcome you see in your life right now is only a shadow cast by a decision you either made unconsciously or avoided consciously. Money does not follow effort the way they teach children. It follows identity. It follows self-image. It follows the quiet agreements you made with yourself in moments when nobody was watching and no applause was promised. Long before bank balances and online dashboards and revenue graphs, there was a private conversation between you and your fear. And fear, if left unchallenged, always negotiates smaller dreams. The world of online earning looks loud from the outside, screens filled with numbers, people shouting success, promises stacked on top of promises. But real wealth is silent at first. It grows in places where discipline is invisible and patience feels lonely. The mind that earns consistently is not chasing money, it is commanding itself. And the difference between those two states is the difference between desperation and power. You don't lack information. You live in an age where strategies are free and knowledge leaks from every corner of the internet. What you lack, if you're honest, is emotional containment, the ability to sit with uncertainty without flinching, the ability to work without immediate reward, the ability to want more without becoming frantic. This is the ancient art they never taught you: self-control as currency, mental discipline as capital, inner silence as leverage. Every successful online earner, every person who built income from nothing but a screen and belief, crossed the same invisible threshold, a moment when they stopped begging the future for permission and started acting as if their vision was inevitable, not loud, not arrogant, calm, grounded, surgical. Because manifestation is not magic, it is alignment between thought, emotion, and action sustained over time without emotional leakage. Most people sabotage themselves long before failure arrives. They leak energy through comparison. They dilute focus through impatience. They poison momentum through emotional overreaction. One bad day feels like a prophecy. One slow month feels like a verdict. And so they quit, not because the path didn't work, but because their nervous system couldn't tolerate the silence between cause and effect. Understand this now deeply before we go any further. Money is attracted to emotional stability. Chaos repels it. If your mind spikes with hope one day and collapses into doubt the next, your results will mirror that volatility. The internet rewards consistency, not intensity. The algorithms of life are cruelly fair. They give back exactly what you repeat, not what you desire. The discipline required to earn online is not technical, it is psychological. It is the ability to wake up and execute without drama, to refine without self-loathing, to fail without self-betrayal, to win without losing humility. This is why so many burn out. They try to use excitement where only structure works. They try to use motivation where only identity sustains. Think of the mind as a weapon. Untrained, it hurts its owner. Trained, it changes reality. Most people hand their mind to the market every morning and let headlines decide their mood, let numbers decide their worth, let strangers decide their confidence, and then they wonder why success feels slippery. Mastery begins the moment you stop outsourcing your emotional state. Online earning magnifies who you already are. If you are disciplined, it compounds. If you are scattered, it exposes. There is no boss to correct you, no schedule to save you, no one to blame when procrastination wins. Freedom is a mirror, and many people are not ready to see themselves clearly. You must learn to operate from stillness. Stillness is not laziness, it is the absence of inner noise. It is the state where decisions are clean and actions are precise. When your mind is still, you don't chase trends blindly. You observe, you select, you commit, you stay. And staying is where money hides. Desire without control is hunger. Hunger makes mistakes. Controlled desire becomes vision. Vision waits. Vision plans. Vision endures boredom without complaining. The most dangerous myth in online earning is that speed equals success. Speed without direction is just motion. The wealthy move slowly at first because they are building foundations nobody applauds. Every platform rewards mastery. YouTube rewards patience and identity. Freelancing rewards precision and reliability. E-commerce rewards systems and emotional neutrality. Trading rewards discipline more than intelligence. Content rewards consistency more than creativity. But none of them reward neediness. Neediness leaks through tone, decisions, pricing, and posture. The market can smell desperation the way predators smell blood. This is where emotional detachment becomes sacred. Not apathy, detachment. The ability to care deeply without clinging, to want wealth without begging for it, to pursue goals without tying your self-worth to outcomes. When you detach, you stop forcing, and when you stop forcing, resistance dissolves. Ancient warriors understood this. They trained the mind before the blade. They knew that panic kills faster than enemies. Modern earning is no different. Your enemy is not competition. It is reactivity. It is impatience disguised as ambition. It is distraction disguised as opportunity. If you want to earn online, truly earn, you must become someone who can sit alone with a screen and still show up fully. No audience, no validation, just execution, day after day. This is why monks and entrepreneurs share more DNA than people realize. Both are training attention. Both are mastering impulse. Both are betting on delayed gratification. You are not building income, you are building a nervous system that can hold income. Sudden money in an undisciplined mind becomes chaos. Slow money in a disciplined mind becomes empire. The universe, if you want to call it that, tests capacity before reward. It withholds to see if you will quit. It delays to see if you will betray yourself. Every doubt you feel is not a sign to stop, it is a threshold. Every urge to quit is an initiation. Every moment of boredom is a gatekeeper asking if you are serious. Those who pass do not pass because they are smarter, they pass because they are quieter inside. Online earning punishes emotional highs and lows. One viral win can make you reckless. One setback can make you invisible. The masters treat both the same. Calm acknowledgement, adjust, continue. No drama, no identity collapse, no celebration that breaks rhythm. This is why belief must be disciplined. Blind belief is fragile. Disciplined belief is rooted. It does not shout. It does not argue. It does not need external proof every week. It moves forward even when results lag because it understands compounding at a psychological level. It knows that consistency bends probability. The metaphysical law beneath all success is simple and brutal. What you repeatedly focus on becomes your experience. If your focus is on lack, confusion grows. If your focus is on mastery, clarity follows. Focus is not thinking, it is where your emotional energy rests, and most people rested in fear without noticing. You must learn to choose your internal state before choosing your strategy. A calm mind executing a mediocre plan will outperform a chaotic mind executing a perfect one. This is not poetry, this is pattern. Look at anyone who earns consistently online. They are not frantic, they are methodical, they are boring in the best way. Boredom is a sign you are close to something real. Excitement belongs to beginners. Mastery feels quiet, repetitive, almost spiritual. You wake up, you do the work, you improve a fraction, you log off. No fireworks, no instant dopamine, just accumulation. The psychology of success is not about positive thinking, it is about emotional regulation. Can you stay neutral when numbers fluctuate? Can you stay focused when others flex? Can you stay patient when progress is invisible? These questions decide your income long before skills do. Online earning will strip you down to your habits. It will reveal how you talk to yourself when no one else is listening. It will expose whether you are led by impulse or principle. And if you listen carefully, it will teach you discipline faster than any teacher. The mind resists structure before it learns to love it. At first, routine feels like a cage. Later, it becomes armor. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop debating whether to act. Action becomes default. And when action is default, results are inevitable. This is the fire and the silence, the ambition that wants more, the calm that knows it will arrive. When these two stop fighting inside you, your work gains weight, your words carry authority, your decisions align, and money, which follows coherence, begins to orbit you naturally. You don't manifest money by wanting it harder. You manifest it by becoming stable enough to receive it. Stability is rare. That is why wealth is rare. But it is learnable, trainable, earned internally before it is earned externally. If this feels heavy, good. Weight builds strength. This path is not for the frantic. It is for the disciplined. It is for those who can sit in the dark and still believe in dawn without checking the clock every minute. And if something in you is waking up as you listen to this, something quiet and dangerous and focused, then you already know this is not motivation. This is initiation. There comes a moment, usually unnoticed, when a person realizes that the noise inside their head is louder than the noise of the world. That moment is uncomfortable. Most people escape it. They open another tab, they scroll, they consume another promise. But the few who stay with that discomfort begin to understand something dangerous and liberating at the same time. Their greatest obstacle has never been opportunity. It has been their inability to sit with themselves without flinching. Online earning is not a battlefield of skills. It is a mirror room. Every weakness echoes. Every strength multiplies. The reason it feels overwhelming is because it removes excuses. There is no commute to blame, no manager to resent, no office politics to hide behind. There is only you, your mind, and the work. And the work does not care about your mood. This is why so many start and so few endure. Starting is fueled by imagination. Endurance is fueled by identity. Imagination is emotional. Identity is disciplined. When imagination fades, identity carries the weight. But identity must be forged deliberately. It does not arrive through inspiration. It arrives through repetition under pressure. You must understand the difference between wanting financial freedom and respecting the process that creates it. Wanting is loud. Respect is quiet. Wanting fantasizes about outcomes. Respect studies causes. Wanting says, "I'll do this until it stops feeling good." Respect says, "I'll do this until it works." The market rewards respect every time. There is a certain loneliness that comes with disciplined ambition. Friends may not understand why you disappear. Family may question why you're always working on something. Society celebrates visible success, but rarely respects invisible preparation. This is where emotional detachment becomes not just useful, but necessary. You must learn to walk alone without becoming bitter, to work in silence without becoming resentful, to believe without demanding applause. The psychology of earning online is deeply tied to delayed identity confirmation. You are acting as a future version of yourself long before the world agrees you are that person. This creates cognitive dissonance. Your bank account says one thing, your actions say another. Your environment contradicts your vision. And in that tension, most people collapse back into what feels familiar. But mastery lives in that tension, the ability to hold two realities at once without panicking, to live as if the vision is real while accepting that evidence has not arrived yet. This is not delusion, this is discipline. Delusion ignores feedback. Discipline studies feedback without surrendering belief. Every successful online earner learned how to fail without personalizing it. They learned how to look at a bad month without turning it into a bad identity. They separated performance from self-worth. This separation is rare. It is also
everything. When failure feels like information instead of condemnation, progress accelerates. Your emotions are not enemies, but they must be trained. Left unchecked, they distort perception. A single negative comment feels like rejection. A single win feels like destiny. Emotional extremes create strategic blindness. Calm creates clarity, and clarity compounds. There is a quiet power in becoming predictable to yourself. When you know you will show up regardless of mood, your mind stops arguing, resistance weakens, procrastination loses leverage. The work becomes less dramatic, more surgical. This is when output increases without burnout. Most people think motivation precedes action. In reality, action stabilizes emotion. The disciplined do not wait to feel ready, they act, and readiness follows. Online earning does not reward passion alone, it rewards reliability. Platforms, clients, algorithms, and customers all respond to consistency. Consistency is an emotional skill disguised as a work habit. You will be tempted to pivot constantly, new methods, new niches, new platforms. Sometimes adaptation is wise, often it is avoidance. The difference is subtle. Adaptation comes from observation, avoidance comes from discomfort. Learn to tell them apart. Growth often feels boring, avoidance often feels exciting. The mind craves novelty when it fears depth. Depth requires commitment. Commitment threatens the ego because it removes excuses. When you commit, you can no longer say, "This didn't work because I didn't try." Commitment forces accountability. Accountability is terrifying to an undisciplined mind. Online earning exposes how you handle freedom. Freedom without structure becomes chaos. Structure without freedom becomes prison. The art is balance. You design rules for yourself that protect your future from your impulses. You decide in advance how you will behave when motivation disappears. This is where ancient philosophy quietly enters modern economics. Self-mastery has always been the root of power. Kings fell not because of enemies, but because of excess. Empires collapsed not from lack of resources, but from lack of restraint. Your personal economy is no different. Income grows where restraint exists. Desire must be sharpened, not indulged. Indulged desire chases shortcuts. Sharpened desire builds systems. Systems outlive moods. Systems earn while you sleep because they were built while you were disciplined. But systems demand patience during construction. This is where most abandon the blueprint. There will be days when nothing seems to move, views stall, sales pause, replies don't come. These days are not punishment, they are training. They teach you to detach effort from immediate reward. They teach you to trust process over emotion. They teach you that worth is not measured daily. The greatest psychological upgrade you can make is learning to be unaffected by short-term feedback, not ignorant, unaffected. You observe data without absorbing its emotion. You adjust strategy without adjusting belief. This neutrality is rare. It is also magnetic. Money is drawn to those who can hold it without worshiping it. When money becomes your god, fear enters every decision. When money becomes a tool, clarity returns. The disciplined mind does not chase money. It creates value methodically and allows money to follow. Online earning amplifies leverage. One piece of work can pay repeatedly, but leverage magnifies flaws as well. Laziness becomes expensive. Inconsistency becomes visible. This is why inner work is not optional. It is infrastructure. You must learn to pace yourself. Burnout is not proof of hard work. It is proof of emotional mismanagement. The calm earner lasts longer. They build slower, but they build something that doesn't collapse under pressure. The silence you cultivate now will protect you later. The ability to step away from numbers without anxiety, the ability to log off without guilt, the ability to rest without self-loathing. Rest is not the enemy of ambition, it is its regulator. If you listen closely, you'll notice a shift happening. The fantasy of quick success is fading. In its place, something heavier, more grounded, more dangerous is forming. A willingness to endure, a patience that doesn't need reassurance, a focus that doesn't announce itself. This is the mind that earns, not loudly, not desperately, but relentlessly. At some point, if you stay long enough in this path, you will notice a strange reversal. The very things that once scared you begin to lose their grip. Uncertainty becomes familiar. Risk becomes calculated instead of emotional. Silence becomes productive instead of suffocating. And in that reversal, you begin to understand that confidence was never something you were supposed to feel first. It was something you were supposed to earn through repeated proof to yourself that you do not abandon your word. This is the quiet covenant the disciplined make with themselves. I will show up even when nothing moves. I will refine even when no one notices. I will continue even when doubt speaks convincingly. Every time you keep this covenant, something subtle locks into place inside you. Your self-trust deepens, and self-trust is the real currency behind all earning. Most people think fear disappears when success arrives. The truth is more unsettling and more empowering. Fear never disappears, it simply loses authority. It becomes background noise instead of a commander. And this only happens when you repeatedly act in spite of it, not recklessly, calmly, methodically, as if fear were a weather condition, not a verdict. Online earning demands this maturity early. There is no gradual acclimation. One day you are invisible, the next day you are exposed. Metrics judge you without mercy, comments speak without empathy, algorithms shift without explanation. If your identity is tied to approval, you will bleed emotionally. If your identity is rooted in discipline, you will adapt. This is where emotional detachment becomes misunderstood by those who have never practiced it. They think it means not caring. In reality, it means caring without collapsing.
It means investing effort without surrendering your center. It means being able to say, "This didn't work," without saying, "I am not enough." Your mind will look for exits when pressure increases. It will suggest easier paths, quicker wins, more exciting options. And sometimes those suggestions are valid, but often they are simply avoidance dressed as opportunity. The disciplined mind does not reject new ideas impulsively, nor does it chase them compulsively. It evaluates from stillness. Stillness is the hardest skill to learn because it feels like nothing is happening, but stillness is where strategy clarifies. When you are not emotionally charged, you can see patterns. You notice what compounds and what distracts. You distinguish between effort that builds and effort that performs. The performance trap is dangerous in online earning. You begin to work for appearance instead of progress. You optimize for likes instead of systems. You chase validation instead of leverage. This feels productive but rarely accumulates. True progress often looks unimpressive from the outside. There's a reason ancient texts speak of discipline as devotion. Devotion is not dramatic, it is repetitive. It is sacred because it is consistent. When you treat your work as a practice instead of a hustle, something shifts. You stop asking how fast, you start asking how solid. Solid work creates quiet confidence. Quiet confidence changes how you speak, how you price, how you negotiate, how you wait. People feel it even through screens. Clients trust it. Audiences sense it. Platforms reward it because it produces predictable value. The psychology of success is not about believing you are special. It is about believing that cause and effect are real and unbreakable, that effort, placed correctly and repeated long enough, must produce results. This belief removes panic. You stop rushing outcomes because you trust process. Trusting process does not mean passive hope. It means active patience. You adjust, you measure, you refine, but you do not emotionally overreact. You do not abandon the field every time the wind changes. You learn to stand your ground. There will be moments when you question everything, the niche, the model, yourself. These moments are not signs of failure, they are signs of depth. Shallow pursuits do not provoke existential doubt.
Only paths that matter force you to confront who you are becoming. When doubt arrives, observe it like a visitor. Do not invite it to make decisions. Let it speak, let it pass, return to the work. This ability to continue without emotional resolution is rare. It is also the difference between those who almost succeed and those who do. Online earning rewards those who understand momentum at a psychological level. Momentum is not built by intensity spikes. It is built by rhythm. Same time, same focus, same effort, day after day. Rhythm quiets the mind, and a quiet mind executes cleanly. You will notice that the more disciplined you become, the less you need motivation. Motivation becomes irrelevant. You operate from principle. Principle does not fluctuate. Principle does not negotiate. It simply directs. This is why self-mastery always precedes outer mastery. Before you can command systems, you must command impulses. Before you can scale income, you must scale attention. Before you can manage money, you must manage emotion. Many never reach this stage because they underestimate how confronting it is to remove excuses, to accept that your results are reflections, not accidents. This acceptance is heavy. It removes victimhood. It removes fantasy, but it gives you power. Power feels different than excitement. Power is calm. Power is slow. Power does not need reassurance. When you taste it, you stop chasing hype. You stop reacting to every new voice. You become selective, and selection is the beginning of mastery. There is a moment when you realize you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You are building something for alignment, not applause. This moment is dangerous to mediocrity. It is the point of no return. From here, work becomes quieter. Ego recedes. Results begin to stack. Not explosively, reliably. And reliability is what the world pays for. You are no longer asking if this will work. You are asking how well you can execute it. The question shifts from possibility to precision. And that shift marks the transition from dreaming to building. Stay here. This is where most leave. And because they leave, space opens for those who remain. If you remain long enough in this space where others retreat, something subtle begins to harden inside you. Not rigidity, but resolve. The kind that does not need to announce itself. The kind that does not argue with doubt or wrestle with fear. It simply moves forward as if the path has already been walked in another life, and you are only remembering it now. This is where vision stops being emotional and starts becoming architectural. You no longer imagine success as a feeling. You see it as a structure. Daily actions become bricks. Habits become beams. Time becomes mortar. And suddenly the question is no longer, will this work? But am I placing each piece correctly? Anxiety fades when questions become practical. The internet is full of people selling urgency. They profit from your impatience. They tell you speed
Does not rush outcomes. It removes the need to obsess over them. Obsessing over results is a sign of mistrust. Trust grows when you keep promises to yourself. Every day you execute without negotiating. Trust deepens. And trust stabilizes the mind. A stable mind makes better decisions. Better decisions compound faster than frantic effort ever could. You begin to understand why so many people self-sabotage right before progress breaks through. Growth demands a new identity. A new identity threatens the old comfort. The mind panics when familiar suffering is about to be replaced with unfamiliar responsibility. So it creates chaos, drama, distraction, anything to restore the known. If you recognize this pattern in yourself and stay anyway, you cross a psychological threshold few ever do. You stop being managed by impulses. You stop reacting to every internal fluctuation. You become the observer and the executor at the same time. Calm watching, steady doing. Online earning at its highest level becomes an extension of character. Your pricing reflects self-respect. Your boundaries reflect clarity. Your output reflects discipline. People sense this without understanding it. They trust you without knowing why. They pay you without negotiating. Authority is not claimed, it is felt. You will still face uncertainty, that never leaves. But uncertainty no longer paralyzes you, it sharpens you. You see it as terrain, not threat, something to navigate, not something to escape. This mindset alone separates amateurs from professionals. Eventually, you realize the work has changed you more than the money ever could. You are calmer, more deliberate, less reactive, more selective. The chaos that once pulled you apart no longer gets access. You have built an inner structure strong enough to hold pressure. And here is the quiet truth most never hear. The income is just a side effect. The real reward is sovereignty, the ability to choose your actions without being hijacked by fear, the ability to delay gratification without resentment, the ability to endure without hardening. If you are still here, still listening, still breathing evenly instead of chasing the next rush, then you are already becoming someone different, someone dangerous to mediocrity, someone incompatible with excuses. And once that incompatibility sets in, there is no going back. There is a moment that arrives quietly, almost invisibly, when you realize that you are no longer asking for permission from the world. You are no longer waiting for a sign, a signal, a sudden rush of confidence to justify your movement. You move because movement has become who you are. Action is no longer something you debate, it is something you inhabit. This is where ambition and calmness stop being enemies, they fuse. The fire no longer burns wildly, consuming everything in reach. It becomes contained, directed, almost cold in its precision. You still want more, but you no longer need more to feel whole, and that distinction changes everything. Most people never experience this state because they confuse intensity with commitment. They think passion must feel explosive. They think drive must feel urgent. But urgency is unstable. It exhausts itself. What lasts is resolve, and resolve feels quiet, almost unremarkable, until you realize it never leaves. Online earning begins to reward you differently at this stage, not through dramatic spikes, but through subtle leverage. Effort goes further. Small improvements ripple outward. A single decision saves months of correction. You see farther because your mind is no longer crowded with noise. Clarity becomes your unfair advantage. You start respecting time differently, not as something to be filled, but as something to be honored. You stop rushing days. You stop resenting slow progress. You understand that every phase has a purpose, and skipping one only guarantees collapse later. Patience stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like strategy. There is a discipline in knowing when not to consume, when not to watch another video, when not to seek another opinion. At some point, more information becomes a liability. It fragments conviction. The disciplined learn to close the gates, to work with what they know long enough to master it before seeking more. This restraint is rare in a culture addicted to stimulation, and because it is rare, it is powerful. While others chase trends, you build depth. While others react, you refine. While others announce, you accumulate. You begin to notice that the loudest voices in the room are rarely the most effective. Real builders speak less because they are listening more, listening to data, listening to their own rhythms, listening to the subtle feedback most ignore because it doesn't scream. Emotionally, you become harder to disturb, not numb, anchored. Praise no longer inflates you. Criticism no longer destabilizes you. You extract what is useful and discard the rest. This emotional economy saves immense energy, energy that can now be invested into creation instead of defense. You stop explaining yourself. Explanation is often a sign of insecurity. When your path is clear to you, you don't need to convince others. You let results speak in their own time. Silence becomes a form of confidence. The metaphysical laws you once heard about start to feel less mystical and more mechanical. Focus creates momentum. Consistency bends probability. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes outcomes. There is nothing supernatural here, just cause, effect, and patience. And yet, there is something almost sacred about watching reality respond to your internal order. As your mind becomes structured, your external world reflects it. Chaos recedes. Opportunities become cleaner. Decisions feel lighter because they are aligned. You realize that manifestation was never about visualization alone. It was about emotional congruence, about becoming the kind of person for whom the outcome makes sense. Money arrives more easily when it no longer has to fight your self-doubt, your impulsiveness, your fear of responsibility. Responsibility, once feared, now feels grounding. You can hold more without panicking. You can manage more without losing yourself. Capacity expands naturally when discipline is present. This is why slow growth protects you. It trains you as it pays you. There is a humility that develops here, not the kind that diminishes you, but the kind that keeps you learning. You stop assuming you have arrived. You remain a student of process. This humility prevents stagnation. It keeps the mind flexible without becoming scattered. You also become aware of how many people are addicted to struggle. They wear busyness like a badge. They confuse exhaustion with importance. You see now that ease is not laziness. Ease is efficiency earned through mastery. The calm earn more because they waste less energy fighting themselves. Your relationship with desire evolves in this stage. Desire no longer pulls you forward frantically. It stands behind you, steady like a hand on your back. It reminds you why you started, without demanding constant proof. This kind of desire is sustainable. It fuels long games. You stop fantasizing about escape. Escape from jobs, escape from systems, escape from responsibility. Instead, you build sovereignty piece by piece. Not dramatic freedom, but functional freedom. The freedom to choose your focus, the freedom to design your days, the freedom to walk away from what does not align. And perhaps the most profound shift of all is this. You stop asking if you are capable. You assume capability and focus on execution. Doubt loses its voice when you are busy honoring your own standards. This is not the end of the journey. It is the deepening, the point where progress becomes less visible but more permanent, where growth happens beneath the surface, strengthening roots that will later support weight others cannot carry. If you feel steady now, if your breathing has slowed, if your thoughts feel less frantic and more deliberate, that is not coincidence. That is alignment. And alignment is the precursor to everything that lasts. Stay here. The silence ahead is not empty, it is charged. When the silence becomes charged instead of empty, you begin to sense a deeper rhythm beneath everything you do. Not urgency, not pressure, rhythm. A steady internal pulse that does not speed up when others panic and does not slow down when others celebrate. This rhythm becomes your anchor, and once you feel it, you realize how rare it is, how few people ever cultivate it, how most lives are lived reacting instead of moving deliberately. At this stage, your relationship with effort changes. You no longer measure your days by how hard they felt, but by how cleanly you executed. Clean execution becomes satisfying in a way chaos never was. You finish work without emotional residue. You close the laptop with mental clutter. Your mind feels clear because you did what you said you would do. That clarity carries into the next day and the next, quietly compounding. You also begin to understand why so many people secretly fear success. Success removes excuses.
It demands consistency at a higher level. It exposes character flaws that struggle once hid. When money starts responding to you, when systems begin to work, when momentum builds, the question becomes sharper. Can you remain disciplined when the stakes rise? Many cannot. They relax too early. They indulge too quickly. They break the very structure that lifted them. This is why inner mastery must always stay ahead of outer growth. The calm you built during scarcity must not dissolve in abundance. If it does, abundance becomes temporary. The disciplined earner does not change who they are when results improve. They deepen it. They protect routines more fiercely. They simplify even further. They understand that success is not a finish line, but a pressure increase, and pressure reveals everything. You start to notice how temptation evolves. Early on, temptation is distraction. Later, it becomes comfort, the urge to coast, the whisper that says you've done enough. This is a more dangerous enemy than fear, because it sounds reasonable. But mastery does not negotiate with comfort. It respects rest, but it does not surrender to complacency. Online earning rewards those who can stay sharp without becoming tense. You learn to operate from relaxed focus. Tight minds break, loose minds drift. The balance between the two is rare and valuable. It allows you to adapt quickly without losing center. Your intuition sharpens, not in a mystical way, but in a pattern recognition way. You sense when something is off before numbers confirm it. You feel when an idea has weight. This intuition is not magic. It is the byproduct of attention sustained over time. Most people never stay focused long enough to develop it. You also become more honest with yourself, brutally, calmly honest. You stop pretending effort happened when it didn't. You stop blaming conditions for choices. This honesty is not harsh, it is liberating. It removes confusion. It makes correction immediate instead of emotional. Correction becomes a skill. You don't spiral, you adjust. You don't dramatize mistakes, you integrate lessons. This speed of correction is one of the greatest advantages you can develop. While others spend weeks recovering emotionally, you spend minutes recalibrating. The metaphysical meets the practical here. When your internal state is stable, reality responds faster. Not because the universe is impressed, but because your actions become consistent enough to produce reliable outcomes. Alignment accelerates cause and effect. You no longer chase balance. Balance emerges naturally when discipline is present. Work fits into life instead of consuming it. Life supports work instead of distracting from it. The false dichotomy dissolves. There is also a quiet grief that may surface. Grief for wasted time, for years spent reacting instead of building. Let it pass. Do not dwell. Regret can sharpen focus if you do not turn it into self-punishment. The disciplined extract fuel even from loss. At some point, you realize you are no longer easily influenced. Trends pass by without pulling you. Opinions bounce off without sticking. You have standards now, internal ones, and those standards guide you more reliably than motivation ever did. You understand now why mastery has always been associated with solitude, not isolation, but selective presence. Too many voices dilute direction. Too much noise fractures will. The disciplined choose environments that protect their future selves. Online earning stops feeling like chasing money and starts feeling like refining expression. You are expressing value through systems, content, services, or products. Money becomes feedback, not validation. When feedback dips, you improve expression. You don't question your worth. This emotional separation is freedom. It allows you to stay curious instead of defensive. Curious minds grow. Defensive minds stagnate. The difference is everything. As your inner world stabilizes, you begin to sense the weight of what you're building. Not just income, but continuity. Something that can last without constant emotional input. This is legacy thinking, whether you name it or not. You are building something that does not require your anxiety to survive. And here is the quiet truth that settles in your bones. The hardest part is over. not because the work ends, but because the inner resistance that made everything feel heavy has dissolved. What remains is effort without friction, focus without force. You are no longer fighting yourself, and that alone puts you ahead of almost everyone. The path forward is not flashy, it is narrow, steady, and demanding, but it is yours now. You are not guessing, you are not hoping, you are executing with calm certainty. And as long as you remain here, grounded, disciplined, awake, the results are no longer a question of if, only when. When the question shifts from if to when, the pressure inside you changes shape. It no longer presses against your chest, demanding reassurance. It settles into your spine like weight you have learned how to carry. This weight does not slow you down, it stabilizes you. It keeps you grounded when momentum increases and shields you from arrogance when results appear. You begin to experience time differently now, not as something chasing you, but as something moving with you. Days feel fuller, not busier. You are present in your work instead of mentally racing toward outcomes. Presence sharpens execution. Execution sharpens results. The loop closes quietly. There is a discipline in accepting that some seasons are for building and others for harvesting. Most people confuse the two and suffer unnecessarily. They demand harvest during planting and panic during growth. You no longer do this. You respect the phase, and because you respect it, you extract its full value. Your mind, once restless, becomes economical. Thoughts serve function instead of noise. You no longer rehearse imagined failures. You no longer replay conversations that don't matter. Mental energy stops leaking, and what doesn't leak accumulates. This accumulation is invisible but profound. It shows up in how quickly you recover from setbacks, in how little external chaos affects your internal order, in how decisively you act when opportunities arise. Decisiveness is not impulsivity, it is clarity under pressure. You notice that people begin to respond to you differently, not because you are louder, but because you are clearer. Your communication becomes precise. Your boundaries become obvious without being aggressive. You are easy to work with because you are consistent, and consistency is rare. Online earning thrives on trust, even when it's never named. Trust that you will deliver. Trust that you will persist. Trust that you will not disappear when things become inconvenient. This trust compounds faster than talent ever could. There is also a deepening respect for simplicity. Complexity once felt impressive, now it feels inefficient. You strip systems down to their essence. You remove unnecessary steps. You optimize for sustainability instead of brilliance. This is not lowering standards, it is raising them. You begin to see how many people sabotage themselves by trying to look successful instead of becoming effective. Image drains energy, effectiveness conserves it. You choose the latter again and again without needing to justify the choice. Emotionally, you feel less dramatic but more alive. The highs are quieter, the lows are shallower. What remains is a steady sense of forward motion. This steadiness becomes addictive in the healthiest way. You crave alignment more than excitement. You no longer need to prove discipline. You live it. It shows in your calendar, in your sleep, in your focus, in the way you say no without guilt. Guilt was once the price of ambition. Now clarity has replaced it. The metaphysical laws you once heard spoken about vaguely now feel embodied. You understand that attention shapes reality because you see it daily. Where your attention goes, your systems improve. Where your attention lingers, growth follows. This is no longer theory, it is experience. You also recognize the cost of distraction more clearly. Every unnecessary detour delays compounding. Every emotional spiral interrupts rhythm. And because you value rhythm now, you protect it fiercely, not through rigidity, but through choice. Choice is the ultimate expression of freedom, not the ability to do anything, but the ability to choose what matters and ignore the rest. This discernment sharpens with discipline. You stop confusing options with progress. At this stage, even setbacks feel different. They do not threaten identity, they test structure, and structures can be reinforced. You adjust inputs, you refine systems, you remain intact. You may notice a quiet pride forming, not ego, pride in reliability, in showing up, in being someone you can count on. This pride is stable. It does not demand recognition. It feeds endurance. The work becomes less about reaching a destination and more about maintaining a standard. Standards simplify life. They remove decision fatigue. They create momentum without emotional cost. You no longer ask what you feel like doing. You ask what aligns with the standard, and alignment feels good in a deeper, longer-lasting way than impulse ever did. If someone were to look at you now, they might not see
anything dramatic, no fireworks, no sudden transformation, but they would feel something unmistakable, a grounded presence, a calm intensity, the sense of someone who is no longer searching. And that is the quiet danger of this state. You stop being easily influenced, you stop being easily sold to, you stop being easily shaken. You are no longer a consumer of dreams, you are a builder of reality. This is not the end, it is the steady middle, the long stretch where foundations become structures and structures become systems, where days blur together not from confusion, but from consistency. And if you stay here, if you protect this rhythm, if you continue to choose discipline over drama, the future you once imagined stops feeling distant. It begins to feel inevitable. Inevitability is a dangerous word to the unprepared mind. It can breed arrogance or complacency, but to the disciplined, inevitability does something else entirely. It removes haste. When you know something is coming because you are doing the work required for it to arrive, you stop reaching for it. You let it approach on its own terms. This patience is not passive. It is alert, awake, watchful. You begin to understand that force is the language of insecurity. Calm persistence is the language of power. Power does not rush, it does not shout, it does not prove. It positions itself so thoroughly that outcomes have no choice but to comply. There is a deep psychological shift here that most people never articulate. You stop identifying as someone trying to succeed and start identifying as someone who operates at a certain level regardless of external confirmation. Your behavior no longer depends on hope, it depends on standards, and standards are immune to mood. The mind that once needed encouragement now requires only direction. You no longer need to be inspired to act. You only need clarity. And clarity is something you can manufacture through discipline, through silence, through repetition. This is where emotional maturity becomes unmistakable. You stop venting your frustration into the world. You stop seeking sympathy for difficulty, not because difficulty vanished, but because broadcasting struggle weakens focus. You conserve your energy. You use it to build, not to explain. Online earning becomes almost meditative at this level. You sit, you execute, you refine, you repeat. The drama falls away. What remains is a craft, a practice, something you respect enough to approach without chaos. You also notice that your sense of self is no longer fragile. Praise does not inflate you. Criticism does not hollow you out. You remain centered because your worth is no longer being negotiated externally. It has been settled internally. This internal settlement is rare. It creates a quiet authority. People feel it, even if they can't name it. They trust your consistency. They respect your restraint. They sense that you are not chasing them, and that makes them lean in. You now understand why ancient teachings emphasized mastery of the self above all else. Without mastery of the self, resources corrupt. With mastery of the self, even modest resources multiply.
The equation has always been internal first, external second. The discipline you once forced is now automatic. The routines that once felt heavy now feel protective. They shield you from regression. They preserve momentum. They allow progress to continue even on days when emotion is low. You no longer fear low-energy days. You work differently on them, but you still work. You adjust output, not identity. This adaptability keeps the system alive. Rigid minds break. Flexible, disciplined minds endure. At some point, you realize that the version of you who once doubted this path would no longer recognize you, not because you became louder or richer or more impressive, but because you became steadier, harder to derail, less interested in escape, and more committed to construction. Construction is a long game. It rewards those who respect time instead of trying to conquer it. You are no longer fighting time. You are cooperating with it. And time, when respected, becomes an ally. You feel it now, even if you can't yet see it fully. The work is no longer just changing your circumstances. It is reshaping your nervous system, teaching you how to remain calm under pressure, teaching you how to move without noise, teaching you to hold desire but without being owned by it. This is the psychology of success most never reach, not because it is hidden, but because it demands something uncomfortable and unglamorous. It demands that you remain.